Thank you, John. Thank you, Chris, before me. Everything we do and don't do is political. And what better way to start a political engagement such as TEDx than with a little bit of interactivity, a dialogue with the audience. So real quickly, feel free to yell out, what are you passionate about in your community? Education. Students. Art. Bikes. So these are all great things that you can rally behind. Because when the city celebrates something, when its community celebrates something, it's generally amplified. It's increased, the press will cover it. If there's funding associated with it, it also will increase as well, and the community will carry the banner forward, like with Global Fest. If the community abhors something, then it usually shrinks. The press will cover it yet again. Yeah, that is the banana statue for those that may not be familiar with it. And if there's funding associated with it, that also will diminish too. The community puts down the banner and they move forward. Now, occasionally, you will have a crossroads where maybe the public will and what the government wants to do is at a standstill. And they'll have to come to some sort of compromise. People that are involved usually get disinterested. They stop attending public meetings. They fizzle out, such as the new Chauncey land use plan. But it still moves forward because it has to. So what about in our community things that are forgotten, that are neglected, that are disregarded? Now, there's a picture of one of my great neighbors, Thomas Kessler, who goes around tirelessly and picks up trash and concrete on our sidewalks and our streets so we can traverse them safely and free of such debris. And my partner Ann and I, we started doing that same thing, going around on our walks with buckets and gloves and picking up trash. Why? Because we want to make Greater Lafayette greater. Now, one of our local artists, Aaron Bumgarner, for the Small Spaces Art exhibit, made this poster, the sign that he hung up, Make Greater Lafayette Greater. And I see that as a charge to you, to me, to us, to everyone in our community. What are you doing to make Greater Lafayette greater? Or if you're from a different community, what are you doing to move that community forward? Zach Medler thought that a downtown community art project would be such a thing that would make the community greater. And so what did he do? He went to the Lafayette Redevelopment Commission, he secured some funds, and he curated some artists, and they started upon their project. Now with this, it was celebrated. It was moved forward, the press covered it, and then there was some tension regarding some of the projects. Some people pushed back, perhaps like the Aaron Molden piece on the side of Sylvia's. Then you had the Sagan Newham piece on the side of the Haywood Printing Building next door to Civic. You had the Grant Lutz and Richard Brumbaugh piece also on Haywood. And because the small group of thoughtful, committed citizens changed the course of this public art project. And you may not agree with what it is that they wanted to do, but this should be inspiring because a small group did contact City Hall and the powers that be and saw a change. Margaret Mead would be very, very in favor of this type of thing because that's all that ever does change the world. It doesn't hurt, like you see here, to have a big microphone in front of you amplifying what it is that you're saying. So if you can get the media behind you, that's an integral component in that aspect as well. A lot of us, we are usually seen in this particular stature maybe once a year, every couple of years in the primary and in the general election. We push some buttons on a Diebold machine and we try to declare what it is that we're going to choose to represent us in our community and move forward, to make the decisions for us. However, that may not always work. In small spaces, we weren't asked a question regarding that because I don't even know if that would really matter in Indiana since we were the lowest voter turnout this last general election. 28% of the registered voters actually voted. How many people voted in this room? Okay, a lot of hands. Above 1 in 4. So maybe the TEDx crowd is a little bit different. And so if you ask the question, I don't know if it would always matter. And so there's another way. You can be involved as a constituent in the process, to be an integral component in the process. So this is the State Street Master Plan meeting where you had Eric Lucas from MKSK presenting the latest findings in the West Lafayette Public Library, another great bastion of constituent activity, with the Development Department from West Lafayette there, Purdue people there, community leaders there, neighbors there, families there. They even brought their children, the youngest in our community. Those that are technically ineligible to vote could still be a part of the process. Why? There's not an age requirement on being a constituent, on exercising any of the freedoms that you have. And so at another State Street Master Plan meeting, we've broken up into workshops. We expressed our views, what we wanted to see in State Street, what we didn't want to see, what we wanted to see changed, and all of those were incorporated. And now we have a State Street Master Plan that we need to be constituents on and make sure is executed in the way that it was presented. And so there's this dark quote that I read in Brewer's Dictionary of Political Phrase and Fable that I picked up at Vaughn's used books. And I agree with Gerald Lieberman on that, in that elections are not the only way to engage your government, to engage politically. The First Amendment is chock full of several of those. Freedom of speech, to create media. Some of you have the zine that I made as a supplement, as a footnote to this presentation. You have the right to petition, to assemble as we are today in TEDx and engage politically. Share your passion ideas. Because otherwise, you're relegated to standing in long lines. You perhaps don't get an opportunity for redress. You fill out paperwork, and then you're left to wait for the next election cycle. So moving forward, with that, if you take it to its nth degree, local blogger, and attorney, and Twitter user, Doug Masson stated that the ballot box is an amazing tool for turning dreams and aspirations into mostly unsatisfying rules and regulations. Bureaucracy. So there is other ways to engage in such a way. You can go to a mosey down Main Street. So how many people have been to a mosey down Main Street in our area? Most people. And that's one of the most beautiful constituent engagements that can happen. Why? You have politicians there, community groups, religious groups, activist groups, artists, musicians, restaurateurs, neighbors, people you'll have never met and people you'll never meet again, all in one evening. You can talk about anything that you want, move forward on any, community cause or thing that you're passionate about. Another opportunity, the farmers market. You can actually connect to the food supply in your area. We have a lovely one in downtown and also in West Lafayette and at Purdue. And here's another neighbor, Al Pounders, talking to Italian, to Valentino, one of the vendors there. You have the opportunity to engage in political theater. Civic theater players did the play 8 about California's court case regarding Proposition 8 and bring that information and have a dialogue with your community about those issues. You have the Stop the Stone Quarry people, the Americas Area Community Coalition, where they had picnics and fundraisers, wrote letters, and they were successful in lobbying to get the prohibition of quarries in a residential area at the county level. However, they know that the fight is not over because politics is a war of attrition, it is a struggle, and they have to keep going. You have the Purdue Social Justice Coalition, where they have an open mic, among other events, that happen in Vienna Cafe. And you can engage via poetry, prose, song, community, in a cafe-type setting around social justice and other community issues. You have the Lafayette Independent, the monthly independent newspaper that's published around Greater Lafayette. And they have an annual potluck, among other gatherings, where you can meet readers and editors and contributors on local, state, national, world issues. You have occasionally a meeting where you get tricked. You think you're going to be a constituent, and you're relegated to the sidelines. This is the Redevelopment Commission in West Lafayette. I took this picture as I was next to some department heads, and they were making the budget for the next year. And you're not always afforded an opportunity. Well, what does the public think that we should focus on? What does the public think we should put our efforts, our money behind? And then you have the Spark, students participating as responsible citizens at Burnett Creek Elementary. Every Monday they go to the library, learn about digital citizenship, the history of the military, and voting. And in this particular one, the Journal and Courier covered that Tippecanoe School Corporation board members who were running and told the students about the election process and campaigning. I'm fearful, however, that they did not encourage the students to move beyond the ballot box, that even though they may be ineligible to vote now, they can still write a letter to the editor. They can still create their own newspaper. They can call into WBA's Ask the Mayor show and contribute to their democracy now without having to wait to be asked a question, to wait to vote. Because after all, we are our choices. So what we choose to do maybe inspires and influences and informs young people in what they choose to do. And it's not just in the hard political arena. How we spend our local dollars is also influential. So Beth will be speaking a little bit more to that. But as far as recirculation, these are some quick charts of if you spend local dollars, how much of that actually stays in the local economy versus a chain retailer. And this is also restaurants. We just had Main Street Wine and Cheese close and Uncork close over on Main Street. I hope that a non-chain, non-franchise restaurant moves back in there so we have more dollars recirculating locally. Another great narrative, Bicycle Lafayette. So they started in 2012 as an education advocacy group regarding cycling, and they've created a multitude of projects. They have the Educational Bicycle Rodeo. They made informational spoke cards. They've tabled at a wide variety of events, charity rides, and they also successfully lobbied both the City of West Lafayette and Lafayette to pass a safe passage ordinance. And that was a great, great triumph. They started with a petition. They had 282 signatures online, and then they went to Councilor Eddie Van Bogart in the West Lafayette City Council, and they got his support. He developed an ordinance with some language used elsewhere in the state, and it passed its first reading on May 6, 2013, and then passed its final reading the subsequent month. A year later in Lafayette, they did the same thing. May 5th, 2014, they passed their ordinance, and on second reading, it made it into the code. And so now we have the safe passage ordinance. The media loved it. They loved it. Journal and Courier covered it. Think Lafayette covered it. I'm sure there was probably some small zines made about it. You had Purdue Exponent, you had WBA, you had WLFI. It was a very, very great cause to rally behind and support and celebrate. Now, what if what you're passionate about is forgotten, is disregarded, is perhaps intentionally pushed aside? What if what you want to talk about is the emperor has no clothes? Well, maybe the media might not get behind you, and that's the case where you create your own media. You create your own speech. You develop your own petitions. You assemble your own self and get together and organize. And that way you can develop mutual knowledge so that I know, that you know, that we know, that they know. That you remove all plausible deniability. All the information cards are laid out on the table. You can't deny everything because everyone is in the know. And I thank Steven Pinker for introducing me to those ideas of mutual knowledge and also plausible deniability. And we have to remember that a beautiful dovetail is Thomas Paine's quote in his letter addressed to the addressers on the late proclamation, in particular regarding seditious writings, that it is only error and not truth that shrinks from inquiry. So what is it when you're questioning things, when you're bringing things to light that maybe the powers that be don't want you to know? Is it their actions are in error? Their thoughts are in error? Their plans are in error? Should we be scared of questioning? Scared of mutual knowledge? Many would say that they like having plausible deniability. It gives you some slither room back and forth on being able to move on a particular issue. And so we must remember that politics is a war of attrition. Politics is a struggle. As you saw with organizational leadership that Chris talked about, you're pushing information around, and it goes on and on and on. As Camus ended in his essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, one must imagine Sisyphus is happy. And I thank Aaron Molden for developing these artistic works so I can make this animation of perpetually pushing this boulder. That as we go through our struggles with blood, sweat, tears, anxiety, that we need to remember to smile, perhaps include a song and help other people push theirs. So I challenge all of us. What is your coefficient of static friction? What has to happen in your community before you start moving, before you start pushing boulders of change up and down the hills in your community? I challenge you to become a political entrepreneur. I challenge you to become an engaged constituent. I hope to see you out in the streets and in your neighborhoods and certainly at future public meetings. Thank you.